Okay, so thank you for attending today's webinar. We are going to touch upon very fantastic topic, quantum computing and AI convergence. It's very focused on drug discovery. So we have two distinguished guest speakers today. And first speaker is Tom Corfield. He is a CEO and founder of Digital Eater Computing, and he was a former director of drug discovery lab at Mayo Clinic. And followed by another speaker is Jerome Foret. He's a chief product officer at Qubit Pharmaceuticals and also managing director at Quantum Launchpad. So we have a schedule like this. So after my introduction, that Tom will be talk about quantum-inspired AI in healthcare beyond the hype toward verified intelligence. And next, Jeremy will be talk about molecular dynamics for drug discovery, a use case at the crossroad of quantum and AI. And then finally, I will give you a brief overview of my deep dive white paper actually that I shared in the chat, the innovation and IP frontiers in quantum and AI convergence for drug discovery. And then we have an interact Q&A session after all talks. So without any delay, Tom, could you share your slide and start? Please unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great. So thank you for having me. As mentioned, I'm Thomas Caulfield, and I run Digital Ether Computing out of Miami. And we build physics-grounded AI systems for drug discovery, precision medicine, and other systems. Today, I want to talk about where AI and quantum are actually heading in healthcare and what is being missed in the current conversation. So I'm kind of presenting my perspective on things today and what verified intelligence is. As mentioned, my background, I was the former director of drug discovery and head of a research lab at Mayo Clinic in multiple departments, including AI and neuroscience and clinical genomics, and a member of this Center for Individualized Medicine. Prior to that, I was at Georgia Tech. Well, a long time ago, I was at Georgia Tech as a grad student studying machine learning using computational chemistry, computational science, and multimodal data. I have a BS in physics and math. I did a stint at Roche and UCSD nanoengineering before going to Torrey Pines Institute for molecular studies. And then I came to Mayo Clinic, where I had an excellent time, over 100 publications. And probably the greatest thing we did there was 65 patents for novel composition of matter in areas of cancers, multiple cancers, neurodegeneration targets, metabolic diseases, and cardiology. And then in 2025, I decided to launch digital ether computing. And since forming the company, we've already had 4 publications in 2025, featured in Science Advances, Communications Biology, AI, and Biomolecules. And those cover topics like cryptic binding pockets, the dynamicosome, which is a cool thing we do to determine pathogenicity of a gene, so we can generate all possible missense variants, use statistical mechanics with dynamic simulations, and then correlate that to known clinical data with AI models to predict whether or not a particular missense variant is going to be disease causing or not. And you have a pre-populated catalog then that you can go to that's ready to go with knowledge on that information. We've developed an AI platform where we're using, and the article in Biomolecules is about a novel generative drug molecular glue program we developed. We filed 3 patents, and we've got several drugs in our pipeline. So with that, I'm going to get into the story of where this talk. So the AI narrative now is dominated by one narrative, generative AI. Bigger models, more parameters. It's treated almost as if gospel. And to be fair, the investment reflects that it's fiction. But here's the thing in my perspective, the conversation is incomplete, and generative AI was designed to do certain things extraordinarily well. But the question is whether those things are what healthcare actually needs. So on the quantum side, the narrative is equally energetic. There are hardware milestones every quarter and billions in government funding. The US alone invests nearly $1 billion a year in quantum information science. And announcements about quantum advantage are frequently in the news, headline news even. And when you look at the application layer, particularly in healthcare, there's a significant gap. So the applications lag hardware by years, but the algorithms aren't ready for real biology. There's no bridge yet between the physics and the healthcare deployment. So then what's the question nobody's asking? So here's the question I think nobody's asking, or at least not asking loudly enough. What happens when the biological complexity demands both AI and quantum thinking, and neither paradigm alone is sufficient? So this is the space where real innovation is going to happen, not in bigger language models, not in faster qubits, but in the intersection where you can take mathematical principles from quantum mechanics and integrate them into AI architectures that understand the physics of the problem. So let's look at why current AI architectures actually break when you apply them to healthcare. So biological systems are not text. Generative AI does something exceedingly well. It matches patterns on large static data sets. It finds statistical correlations. It uses text prediction as a proxy for reasoning. But here's the problem. Biological systems are not text. They require mechanistic reasoning across scales. They are non-stationary and they evolve and they shift. They require causal understanding, not just correlation. And critically, they require physics grounded inferences. So text prediction is not mechanistic reasoning, and conflating them is a category error. And that's when I think the industry makes it scale. So, what is the non stationarity problem? In healthcare, data changes when you're learning from it. Tumors will mutate, resistances will emerge, and the target can literally move. Patients change, comorbidities shift, and drug interactions compound. And the distribution from your model that it was trained on may not match with the deployment reality. So models degrade silently, and that's the non-stationarity problem. And it's fundamental to why static AI architectures struggle in biology. And so that's, I'm a proponent for adaptive AIs, which you'll see in the slides ahead. So that leads to verification crisis too. This is a critical issue. You can't just generate, you have to prove. And an LLM can propose a drug candidate in seconds, but can it verify the binding mechanism? Can it check off target toxicity? And can it explain why it made that choice? In drug discovery specifically, black box failure doesn't mean just a bad recommendation. It means patient harm, or it can mean regulatory rejection. And that might also mean trust erosion across the entire field of AI and medicine. The current AI was designed for language and images, but biology requires something fundamentally different. And that's where I will go into quantum inspired architecture and what it actually means. So let's be clear about the terms because the distinction matters. Quantum inspired is not quantum computing because quantum computing is hardware dependent, and that requires physical qubits, coherence, and error correction. And that's probably still years from clinical utility in most domains. IBM is targeting fault tolerant systems by 2029, and that's optimistic for healthcare applications. However, quantum inspired is quite different. It's software first. You can take the mathematical principles from quantum mechanics, such as superposition, entanglement, and interference, and then implement those on classical hardware. So that's deployable today. And this distinction is what separates serious practitioners from a hype cycle. So the realistic path of a hybrid architecture is one where you start with what classical AI does well, pattern recognition, data processing, and scaling. Then you layer in quantum mathematical principles, probabilistic inference, state representations, and interference patterns. And then you ground that in physics constraints, such as conservation laws or thermodynamics or molecular mechanics. And what comes out of that other end is going to be your verified intelligence, which will be your explainable outputs and your safety guarantees and clinical readiness. So it's an integration, not a replacement. Each layer will strengthen the other. And from that, you have a constraint aware model. And what does this look like in practice? Well, there's three things. First, the physics grounded state representation, which encodes the molecular and biological state in ways that preserves the thermodynamic reality. And then the second is the verification layer, where every inference is checked against known physical constraints before it ever produces an output. And that third will lead to logical consistency enforcement. The system can either improve itself without breaking their own foundational reason, or you will have to, in the case of our adaptive AI, you repeat that until you achieve that consistency to proceed forward. So without getting into the math or the code, just speaking about architectural principles that happen to work. So now let's move on to what self-improving but bounded AI will be like in healthcare. So the goal is systems that get smarter over time without drifting into nonsense. So we're really big on adaptive AI at my company. So adaptive AI, it learns from the new data and new context continuously, and it has to be verifiable at every adaptation and checked against known ground truth. So we even have my AI system has a self-modification component in it that allows us to do that. And bounded, so the physical constraints prevent hallucination and drift. And this is the difference between a system that generates and a system that reasons. Generation is unbounded, and reasoning respects those constraints, which then now leads us to the architectural philosophy. So you have physics in, which is going to be either molecular mechanics, quantum principles, or domain constraints, depending on what your particular system you're studying is. And then through an intelligent architecture that's constraint aware, you'll have self-verifying, physics grounded, and adaptive components. And out of that, you should have verified intelligence that results in explainable discipline, safety guarantees, and clinical readiness. And this is what we're building at Digital Ether Computing. We're doing physics grounded AI for drug discovery and precision medicine with systems that verify their own reasoning before they would ever touch a patient. So where is this going? Over the next 5 years, leaders should watch out for these four things I predict. First would be domain-specific intelligence engines. So generic LLMs will increasingly give way to purpose-built AI systems that understand physics of their domain. And we're already seeing this as vertical AI solutions tripled to 3.5 billion in 2025. Second would be verification as competitive advantage. Companies that can prove their AI is correct will win regulatory approval and clinical trust. That will be a huge differentiator, in my opinion. And then third is hybrid classical quantum integration. So quantum inspired methods on classical hardware is achievable now, and that's something we can do now. We don't have to wait for the quantum hardware to be here. That will happen over time anyway. And with the quantum acceleration integrated as the hardware matures, we have a realistic timeline. And then fourth uh, point I would make is that healthcare is the forcing function. So medicine's complexity and safety requirements will force and drag AI towards maturity faster than any other domain because healthcare cannot and will not tolerate black boxes, and that intolerance will make sure the entire field is better. And the future of AI isn't necessarily bigger models, in my opinion. It's smarter architecture grounded in the physics of the problem. And with that, I would leave you with this one question. If your AI can't verify its own reasoning, should you trust it with a patient? And with that, I'll say thank you and delighted
Thank you,
today.
Tom.
Yeah.
So if you have any question to him that you can keep going on in chat. And also we have an interactive session, Q&A session in after the all talks. So you can wait until the time. Anyway, you can leave your question in chat. Okay, next, Jerome, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, John. Yeah. Can you
I
share
I
your
am.
slide?
Yeah, sure. By the way, thank you very much, Tom, for the very great speech. And I think what I'm going to present will have a lot of meaning about what you said, and it's more specifically, yeah, my side I'm not shared yet. Is it all good for you?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, and so when Tom indeed gave, we will see that I will give the same message as in what Tom said, and I will provide some figures to have a maybe a different insight, and more specifically on one part of the drug discovery process, which is the molecular dynamic aspect. So there was a slide where Tom was talking about this. And so we're going to focus on that. So see what we can do, what we can't do. So I'm the managing director of the Quantum Launchpad. It's a startup studio based in Paris, and we're dedicated to quantum technologies to build the startup of tomorrow. And I'm also I remain the CPO advisory at Qubit Pharmaceuticals, which is a physics-based and AI-based startup in drug design. So the topic is clear what we can have. How can we leverage both the best of both worlds in AI and quantum? So indeed, I'm gonna start same as Tom by what we can't do actually and why with in silico drug discovery. And why molecular dynamics is a problem that can be tackled at some point at some extent, with some limitation, of course. I'm going to make a very long story short first to talk about drug discovery process. Remind to put a drug on the market, it takes 15 years or 10 to 15 years. It costs billions of euros. And not going to address this whole pipeline here. We're just going to focus on the two highlighted spectrum here, phases here, compound screening and compound design, okay, lead optimization. And doing this in silico requires doing hardcore simulations and heavy computing calculations. So long story short, what do we do in silico in silico drug design? We have a body, cells, we have proteins, and we are targeting proteins to reshape them, to reshape their configuration in space with a small molecule. That's one way to heal a disease, but of course we can have antibodies, we can have plenty of different ways to do, but I'm going to focus on ligand and compound design, all right? And a compound design is something that is a small molecule that we put inside the pocket of the protein. And we are going to try to understand what are the interactions between this small molecule with the balls here and the stick and balls, the chemical space surrounding space. Okay. Let's give a small video to let you see how it goes. So we have a protein here in yellow. We have the red dots moving are the water molecule, the solvent. And here you can see maybe, I know it's a bit blur, but you can see a small molecule, a ligand moving. And the idea is basically what we simulate is the capacity of the ligand to stick inside that system. If it sticks, it's a good thing. We call it the affinity of the molecule. And if it sticks, it means that the interaction with the protein has an impact on the disease, right? If it doesn't stick, that means if it doesn't stay in the pocket, that means it's not a candidate. So what we can ask is, okay, how many candidates can we find? So just what is a candidate? A drug candidate shall, it's debatable, answer to at least four of those rule of thumbs, I would say. So it shouldn't have more than five hydrogen bonds. So it shouldn't be too much linked to the protein. Hydrogen bond is a way to be linked to a protein. Molecular mass should be less than 500 daltons. The solubility below 5, it shouldn't be too exposed, too sensitive to the solvent, and it should be around 50 atoms. So it's a very tiny molecule. Given this, the search space we are talking about here represents something around 10 to the 60 candidates. That, of course, we shall narrow down. I mean, we should search into this huge space. So, just to give you an idea, it's more than the number of stars in the universe, right? So, it's a huge space. So, now what do we have? So, that's the problem if we want to find a candidate in such a search space. So, that search space is called the chemical space. It's 10 to the 60. And if we first talk about AI, what do we have today? If I take the biggest LLM Gen AI system, I think this one is the 3 trillion parameters. We can reach 3 million parameters, 3 trillion parameters. It's a super small dot. Here, I give you an idea of the dot, but this is super small. Sorry, it's way much more tiny than that, right? 10 to the 12 is way much smaller than 10 to the 60, way much more smaller. So AI to tackle the search space, the chemical search space, is hard to figure out. If we talk about qubits, quantum, let's say we can simulate today 15 perfect qubits. If we think about 15 perfect qubits, it's 2 to the 15, and it's way much smaller than 10 to the 60. And today we should, as Tom already said, QPU only provide 10 to 50 qubits with really high level. Sorry, there is a missing point here with a really high level of error. The error level is too high to actually be considered reliable to do real computation here, right? So, however, why do we still consider quantum at some point? At some point, 10 to the 60 consists in only having 200 qubits, perfect qubits. So I'm not saying we have them today, but someday we can consider having 200 qubits. 200 qubits is not that much in the end, all right? But it's not for today. Now, this and this is also what Tom said. Searching for structures in our field doesn't make much sense. It's way much too big. The molecular dynamics is more about interaction between the ligand and the protein, and then this may be a more targetable problem. And of course, it's a more, as Tom said again, I'm saying same things in different ways. It's a more subtle problem. It's not so straightforward. So just to remind what we do in molecular dynamics, we have this ligand in blue, we have the protein in green, and we have the solvent in pink or red. And we want to, so this whole system is something around 100,000 atoms or 200,000, maybe 500, even 1 million atoms, okay? Most of the atom coming from the water or the solvent, actually. The water is the core problem of simulation. So if we consider the space of interaction, then we can consider this space by 10 to the 20. Now, considering the large language model, we can start thinking having a addressable problem here. All right. Of course, it's not straightforward again, but we are looking at the different thing. We're not seeking for real structures. We are seeking for interaction between structure, which is a bit more an underlying problem. But thanks to that, we can leverage both AI and quantum. Quantum would be here. So, sorry, I'm just going back, but AI really just need very qualified data. And quantum is here to actually provide those qualified data. So, quantum computing or quantum inspired, because VQE and QAOA are algorithms that we can run on quantum computers, but mostly also simulated, can generate those highly qualified training sets. And those training sets can be used effectively for GenAI training. And then when we do a GenAI prediction, we have predicted data. And the good thing about biology, because again, in the end, what we want to make sure is that the patient is, there's a human reality behind the scene. We can, how would I say, challenge those predictions against real wet labs data sets, right? We have a lot of data here to go further, and this makes a virtuous cycle where we can emphasis on where we can improve the quantum computing algorithms to better generate training set and then better generate GenAI prediction models and better have predicted data. So, I mean, there are plenty, but in the field of science, today cutting edge, I would say, systems are come from Phoenix Bio One. I must talk about this because this comes from Qubit Pharmaceuticals. So it's a French company. It's a French lab and a French company too. Of course, in silico hybrid, Quello, and UAQM, and each of those hybrid approaches are here to actually tackle the interaction problem rather than the structural problem of the search in the chemical space for molecular dynamics. I thank you all for your attention and pleased to have your feedback and questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerome. Yeah, fantastic. So, if you have any question to him, then you can keep going on the chat, or we'll have an interactive session. Okay, so could you leave your slide share? Okay, thank you. So I will share mine. Okay, so I'm going to talk about is more general because Tom and Jerome deliver very fantastic kind of a topic to relate to our agenda. And at first, we was think that because I have enough time, because thankful to us speakers, because it's kind of like I have around 15 minutes to continue. So the first, before I starting my talk, actually, I have something to share my insight, especially with the time talk. Actually, the last my webinar, actually, we talk about very similar topic, kind of like we said like a deterministic AI is needed in healthcare because as Tom exactly kind of delivered the why traditional AI is not fitting into the like a healthcare because of their stochastic or probabilistic way. So they can good at like a pattern recognition, something like the probabilistic. But in healthcare, as mentioned, that we are biological systems, so we are not adapted to like that kind of like a probabilistic approach. So I coin a term that deterministic AI should be applied. So it can be execution level. So it can be comply with all the requirement, safety and regulatory compliance, everything. So in the previous webinar, actually, we are not touching upon this molecular level drug discovery. So we are more focused on they call physics informed. So we focus on more kind of like not the molecular level, but the kind of like a traditional healthcare. So last week we touched upon some kind of like how to apply this one to oncology that I'm working on it. I'm going to file a patent about that. And also another the use case was actually that I'm a strategy advisor to working in kind of like a clinical trial activation. And today, actually, I'm very kind of delighted to come talk about another layer of the physics, kind of like informed type in the determinist way in the molecular level that's a quantum inspired. So I want to say something that I share my insight. Okay, so this is one actually the more general that I am very curious about what the current state of innovation. And I'm a patent attorney, so I'm very interested in the IP space, the what the status. So this is just a introduction, so I will be skim over because Jerome already gave a very fantastic introduction. So basically that let me share this presentation. So the all the detail you can look at it, but the molecular behavior is quantum mechanical, right? That's why that uh, this is a physics, right? Quantum mechanical physics. So fortunately, I did my PhD in physics about 3 years ago. So I'm very have a fundamental understanding of what the quantum mechanics. So molecular theory is quantum mechanical. That's why that they call quantum inspired can be elaborate. And then chemical space is astronomically large, as Jerome explained. And classical AI is limited by representation, so we need more something. And discovery requires both physics fidelity and adaptive reasoning. That actually Tom explained what he's doing is another like adaptive reasoning. Okay, so why quantum computing alone is not enough? So quantum computing model is a molecular physics naturally, but does not learn or generalize. And the quantum workflows remain narrow and task specific, and simulation alone does not scale to discovery pipelines. So, and then in AI also it's not enough. So AI, XR, and pattern recognition and generation but depends on classical descriptors. So AI struggles with the physically complex systems. So AI can propose molecules that fail under real physics. So the convergence architecture that I was interested in is how they can be converged. So the quantum reshaped representation, so quantum feature map and corners embed molecule into high-dimensional Hilbert space, and something that the refining similarity geometry via classical descriptors. And AI learned from quantum informed structure, and also closed loop hide system outperform linear pipelines. And the most importantly, codependency is very essential. So they are not like kind of like integrate in the independent way. They are co-dependent and then tangle each other. So the removing quantum computing and use physics fidelity, remove AI and use adaptive reasoning. So advantage lies in integration. So I just surveyed that what the current state of art and in especially the innovation. For this space, actually, the relatively easy because you can search the very important like literatures, journal papers, and other kind of work, and then web information. So for this side, actually, I can get a very clear view of what the innovation frontiers. So the most of the paper, the research and other things that the indicated the representation is a primary innovation frontier now. So quantum feature map redefines similarities, so molecular inquiries as a quantum state reveal a relationship that visible under classical metrics. And corners alter decision boundaries, so active and inactive compound may become separate in quantum informed spaces, and other things you can look at it. So this is the most of the innovation is focused on is this space. So reduce classical inductive bias and improve generation under the sparse data. And hybrid learning is a dominant design now. So variation quantum circuit act as trainable layers. So quantum circuit function analogous to neural network layers within hybrid architecture. So this is just I just summarized that all the reference that I uh, habit and then just summarize. So this is you can in generally that where the current innovation is focused on and what the like research R&D is going on. So classical AI handles optimization loop, and AI guided quantum configuration is emerging, and co-evolution rather than replacement, quantum augment AI rather than defraying. So you can just look at it in my white paper, or if you are in the kind of like not focus on, but in general you are looking for some new innovation space, then it'll be just a starting point, and then you can think about your new idea and the new insight to adding to this. And the generative model show near-term promise. So quantum enhanced sampling improves diversity. And so like hybrid generative system explore a broader region of chemical space, and closed loop optimization strengths candidate. And KRAS is one of the like the drug targeting drug for this very incurable cancer type. So still a lot of the drug discovery focus on this area. And then experimental validated compound emerged from hybrid workflow. So sampling impact is more realistic than full simulation advantage. So I look at the industry that what the current status. Actually, they are still experimental, as the quantum hardware infrastructure is not fully functional as we promised, right? So it's a transitional period, and even that we have, for example, the infrastructure enabled the dominate the major technology from like you can expect that you can have a quantum computing the cloud-based service in the major cloud-based cloud service vendors like IBM Quantum, AWS, and Google Quantum is some of the example. And startup focus narrowly. So there are several startups which focus on and the companies address specific pipeline component. So from like Polaris QB, Protein Cure, and Maintain AI, there are many more. And they are in the generative chemistry, protein modeling, and optimized models. So, and then pharma engagement remains exploratory. So there are some kind of like a news or that's announcements that the big pharma is working on that as far as I know, that most systemically working in the drug discovery area is I know about is there was a I just forgot about the company the kind of COVID-19 vaccine company in Boston. Um, I will let you know later because I just and then another I found another big pharma they explicitly they have a team to working on in this quantum integrate drug discovery lab operating that I have some connection. Madonna, because Madonna is they have a specific the quantum computing drug discovery lab that operating in Boston. And no dominant reference architecture is yet, so system level iteration remains often. And then so explainability and then orchestration is still there are more work. So quantum interpretable frameworks are immature, so not yet. So limited methodology exists for explaining quantum informed decision. So this space actually that there is more innovation that should be going on. And AI quantum orchestration is largely manual. So experts determine when and how to invoke quantum modules. So that there will be something the orchestration actually that I recently submitted my paper, the peer review for this topic. And regulatory acceptance requires traceability. So auditability is mandatory. And agentic orchestration, this is one actually that I have some special expertise in this area. So strategy. So prioritize representation and hybrid learning. So real-time advantage was at the geometry of the learning layer and design molecular architecture adaptable to hardware evolution. So the system must tolerate noise and scale incrementally and integrate orchestration intelligence early. So AI should manage quantum workload selection and optimization. And also the treat quantum and AI as a system engineering rather than algorithmic competition. So durable differentiation right from the coordinate architecture. This is actually the generally that I got insight from the innovation landscape. And IP. So actually I will give you the background actually that I've started this IP frontiers actually recently that I have another the focus area I have some endeavor is to that I'm as I mentioned that I have about 20 years as a IP professional over top 30 years in tech innovation. So recently I'm very interested in kind of like cultivating the young generation in AI and IP or something like this. So I have a two endeavor that I focus on in that areas. One is I just founded like AI native pattern practice academy. So I'm very interested in the IP space and what will be the like AI native pattern attorney, AI native professional looks like. So and then they will supported by a lot of the AI powered solutions. So I try to make something that very, very kind of like a good curriculum to deliver the kind of like tutorial education to the young generation in IP space. So I tested a lot of the solution actually. Unfortunately, some vendors provide me the free trial. So I tested it and I just look at the because they are very good at in general purpose. And then I was very curious about whether they are AI forward and that they have a very, very good reasoning for this kind of very complex technology innovation. So I just choose the topic and then I try find out whether in the globally that what's the current state of the patented innovation. So innovation and the patent innovation different. Like a patent innovation is you apply patent application to the, for example, in the United States US video, and the examiner to examine and whether there is applied or not, and it's inventable or not, and then you can have issue the patent or something like this. So the innovation space has not exactly mapped to the IP space. So I'm very interested in that, particularly it was their focus on and quantum computing, AI, converses, drug discovery related IP. And then I found that it is good test bed actually the also test the AI powered solution whether they can catch that the correct candidate to be analyzed as some cover the patent to like cover this topic. And another area is whether they understand because most of the recent AI tools have a very similar to ChatGPT type, so they have a reasoning. So if I give the task, for example, find out some innovative like pattern in the space like quantum computing AI for the drug discovery, and then it has a reasoning. And then try to find out some of the reasoning based like context in the patent, and then try to find out what is a good candidate. And then I found that for this kind of complex the topic, most of the AI powered solution missed the correct reasoning. So they suggest me some pattern actually that this is the one I'm looking for, and then they provide why they find this one. They provide their reasoning, and then I manually look at it. All of them are wrong. So anyway, because so this is very interesting topic, very complex topic. So I just skim over that you just look at it that the very rare, just the true meaning of the like as mentioned the quantum plus AI integrated codependence kind of like innovation and patent is very rare. That I only find less than 20 in the globally. So it's very few patent with strict quantum AI codependency standard. And then, so this perceives reflect architecture immaturity. So this field lacks set design conventions, right? And then, so that means that there's another opportunity. Like feasibility is proven, so dominance is not established. So technical integration is claimed, but the ecosystem control is absent. Okay. And then two distinct pattern categories that I found is the one is the core, kind of like a drug discovery that directly mention about the quantum computing tied with AI for some specific drug discovery pattern. Very rare, but I found that several. So the fundamental representation of integration is was the they call the patent claims they claim that they're legally to want to protect the innovation in this space. And another thing is a very adjacent, it's very similar to the core, but actually that they are not the essentially that including every aspect. So I make it the adjacent enabling patterns, and then so not claims usually this is architecture gap. So even if you have a lot of the innovation is through like a papers and then disclose everything, but even and then you have another thing you have in mind that usually the this is the one actually I search over the disclose one. So if you are still under kind of like pending, not in disclose and there is some gap. So there may be some gap around 1 year that even I like a search the recently that there was a gap about the 1 year's term that actually the during the time if file is still pending, then I cannot find out. So there you should have in mind that even with that actually there is some gap in the the compared with the like a dance of the innovation, like a lot of the research papers, something like that, and the very rare in the pattern space, the one of the features that I found. So I just look at the white space means that if you are in the like in the R&D in the big pharma or biopharma or something like that, you're looking for the new opportunity to innovation of this topic, then here is some hints that kind of like so system level integration remains open territory. So orchestration may define future platform dominance, and then convergence mature, but the architecture claim will be concentrated. Only movers may be shift standard. So this is the good news for the if you are in this R&D space. So the IP strategy is that the field remain under patented at the system level. So architecture white space is structurally significant and focus on orchestration, lifetime integration, and governance. So durable IP lies beyond the isolated modeling claims. So explainability will become regulatory critical. So transparency mechanism will define a defendable IP. And hardware agnostic architecture claims are more durable, so avoid like a backend specific dependencies. So this is what I found, and then I already shared my white paper. So we have about 10 minutes to if you have any question, then you can participate interactively, right? Or maybe someone's already have some question in and also have a answer in here. So I have two options. So first one is the among the audience, if you have anything specific to you want to share, like a question, insight, comment, whatever, then you can do. Or maybe two speakers can share final insight about these topics. Okay? Is there anyone among the audience to share your insight, comment, or the question? Anyone? Okay, so maybe Shayaba. Okay, so maybe then good time to additional time to hear from two speakers about whatever you want to share more, right? Tom?
Sure. Parting thought. I'm outside the vet's office with my cat. So I've been doing this from my car. But I would say the field is racing to make AI more powerful, and the real race is going to be to make it more trustworthy. Power without trust doesn't scale in healthcare, so we need to make sure we do that. Um, Trust will get us into clinics. Trust touches every patient, and so I would say bet on trust. That's how I'll end it.
Okay, thank you. So, Tom, do you want to share your presentation with not just for this? I have about 240 visitors for this webinar, but I have a previous full of the webinar participants about the 2000. So, if you
I'm
want to
happy to
share,
send you. You want me to
yeah,
send you my slides? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If you send me, then I will share with all the previous the webinar
I
participants.
think you make a YouTube out of this stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Great. All right. Well, if that's all right with you, I'm going to run into the vet office
Okay.
with my cat now. Nice to meet
Okay.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Katali, do you have any question?
Yeah, Alex, thanks for arranging this. And I'm Chaitali, and I have been associated with AI for the last almost a decade now. Quantum is very new to me, and this is a very interesting topic. But I think explainability in the quantum world is super difficult, isn't it? Are there any ways where people are able to do this when they merge this kind of drug discovery or molecular topics with AI and then quantum? So AI, there are certain extent we do stuffs to make it slightly more explainable. But what about the quantum world?
Uh, Chaitali, I'm Jerome speaking here. Maybe can you rephrase the sentence? So can you rephrase the question? I'm not sure to have properly understood, but I think you're questioning like how the quantum. I'm just not just sure about the question.
Yeah, about the explainability. So, on, no, in the
Ah,
AI world, normally the
oh,
observability and the
explainability. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
explainability are there to a certain
yeah, yeah.
extent. I mean, it's a black box, but
No,
quantum is
this is a
more.
major. Yeah, indeed, this is a
Yeah.
very interesting question because, as a matter of fact, in quantum, the explainability is at the heart of the of the system itself. When we model a system,
Mm-hmm,
uh, we use I would say logical gates, which are quantum
mm-hmm,
gates, but let's say it's a set of logical gates that are interconnected to each other, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
As we do with classical computing, except that the operators are quantum, so they move. They are a part of what we call a Hilbert space whatsoever. These are technical aspects, but so they can do better, faster, let's say.
Yeah, I
And
understand. I mean, it's not,
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
right. Okay,
basics
cool.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
who's got the PhD in what. So yeah. So
Uh-huh.
and but doing so, what we have is actually we design what we call Hamiltonian,
Uh-huh.
and the physical system behind the scene are quantum systems. So they manipulate the matter at a quantum
Oh,
level. And in the end, independently from how you represent your problem, whether it's a quantum circuits, whether it's a straight Hamiltonian right away, in the end, it's a Hamiltonian that you actually design. And this Hamiltonian is super explicit, although super complex, but super
okay.
explicit. And it's explicit, and you know what you are actually doing. And the physical system behind the scene, the QPU, will actually answer or run precisely this specific Hamiltonian, and will solve the Schrödinger equation against that Hamiltonian. And the solution of your and the solution of the Hamiltonian equation will be reached when the physical system is at a stable reaches a stable state.
Ah, okay.
Then comes the question of readouts, because we have only probabilistic. So intrinsically, the Schrödinger equation manipulates probabilities only
Mm-hmm.
by essence, by definition. And here comes the whole problem: how much trials how much shots, we call those things, the shots, number of shots you have to
Mm-hmm.
run to have a statistically relevant
Mm-hmm.
measurement of
Mm-hmm.
your experiment somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, it's a physical experiment that you
That
do
backs
run
it. Yeah.
on the hardware, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hope it
I'm
makes
very
sense.
clear. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you for
yeah.
explaining
You're
this.
welcome.
Mm.
Yeah, and I saw a question about Monte Carlo computing or processes to search the chemical space. All the statistical, and I think Tom properly answered by the small text. And indeed, ADMET is indeed very interesting. I would have liked to put a slide on ADMET properties, but I didn't put a slide on that. Anyway, so yes, MCTs or Monte Carlo's driven search for the chemical space is just another way for steering statistics and basically, LLMs in at the mathematical level do actually rely on some probabilistic process, whether it's Monte Carlo or not. It could be different ways of doing statistics and probabilities, but the LLMs themselves are probabilistic systems that are huge and that are trained on so Monte Carlo is one way, but remains super inefficient to tackle the structural problem. Okay. For the interaction space, there are indeed Monte Carlo methods, and there are mixture of pure physics based and Monte Carlo methods. Molecular dynamics is about manipulating the standard second law of dynamics. So it's not the Schrödinger equation. We actually simplify somehow the problem. And inside, usually what is done is that we add noise or randomness, I would say, inside this equation to search with acceptable to search the phase space, what we call the phase space. Um, with a bit of randomness or control randomness to mimic or to uh, allow for flexibility, I would say, or an acceptable range of error that is statistically admissible from a statistical physics point of view. I'm not sure I was super clear, but yeah. So Monte Carlo are here, and but they are used in a not to search for structure straight away. Again, it's more for interactions.
Thank you.
Merci, Jérôme. Adam Gabriel, I'm the one that asked the
Yeah.
Monte Carlo question. In your explanation to the lady before me, back to Tom's point, do you actually use physical qubits from IBM, for example, or are you simulating them mathematically, like Tom indicated?
So as a matter of fact, we do both. And as a matter of fact, I had the chance at Qubit Pharmaceutical to participate to an article. I think it's where we actually used a quantum algorithm and a real quantum computer, which was Pascal. The Pascal, so French quantum computer based on neutral atoms. To actually do, we do not, so we didn't tackle a real, I would say, ligand protein interaction problem. What we tackled is a super important, I mean, I think Tom will agree on that. A very important problem that we have in molecular dynamics is the influence of the solvent and what we call the water molecules in those physical chemical systems. The water molecules, when they are the problem we were trying to tackle, or which we actually tackled, was to get a probability of presence of water molecule inside a protein pocket. And depending on that presence, the behavior of your ligand can be tremendously different. So this is what we call. So what we managed to do is to translate that chemical problem, or I would say biological problem, into an Ising problem. An Ising problem is a problem from that arose the early 20th century in quantum physics. And this Ising problem is known to be NP hard or NP complete. And we used real qubits on Pascal computer. We only had 16, so it was somehow a toy, I would say,
Simulation.
example. But in the end, we went all in all, we went from A to Z and we made the algorithm run. We found a very interesting optimized value, and we found that there were the probabilities were really relevant with experimental data.
Thank you. I think that
Thank you.
the topic of the explainability, observability, and even the like a casual learning will be a good topic for the my next webinar. So I will research on that topic more in the deeper level, and then I will have an opportunity to discuss more in the my next webinar. Okay. Is there anyone to share insight or the comment, anyone, the final one? We only past 1 minute more, but anyway. Okay, so I will share this recording with you and also that the presentation. And I hope to see you again in my I will think about what if the good topic in next to the quantum computing and AI integration topic. And then I will think about it, and then I will be to design it. And then I hope to see you again. And today's fantastic meeting was good. I found that it's a very, very good insight. I also had learned a lot from two speakers and participants. So I hope you have a good day or evening. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and thank you especially to Tom and Jerome. Okay. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.